Moving on. This is rather a controversial one, guys. Okay. This is the African promotion of the year.
Whoa,
All
whoa,
right.
whoa.
Yeah. So
Let's go for it.
a lot of people, because again MMA is relatively new in Nigeria and in most parts of Africa, so there is still the process of growth going on with these organizations, right? And this year has been a massive year for AKO, that is African Knockout Championship. So those here are the nominees: AKO African Knockout Championship, obviously the big dog in Africa and one of the global players in EFC Worldwide, and we had WFC there. However, this award, after a bit of deliberation between me and the boys, this award was handed to the AKO. Demola argued not, but Ebuka argued yes. Demola was all for EFC. And you know what? Before I throw praises on AKO, I'm going to give Demola a chance to defend why he feels EFC should be the African promotion of the year.
So, I really, really appreciate what Ekeho has done actually this year, right? But we all know that if there's any African promotion that can compete at the global level, and this has actually been proven time and time and time again, it's the EFC. We've seen the Dricoses of this world, we've seen the Themba Gorimbos of this world, come out of this promotion. However, maybe this year, because they have not really, would I say, come up with brilliant innovations, especially with keep using their PI, right? That is probably one of the reasons why would argue that AKO should deserve it, and AKO is a rising star in the African terrain. But truly, if we are going to be honest with ourselves, the promotion in Africa that is at a global level is the EFC. I don't think that can be argued.
Yeah, yes, EFC calls themselves EFC Worldwide because they don't just see themselves as like an African promotion, they see themselves as a global promotion. However,
Mhm.
we would like to categorize it as an African promotion to compare with other promotions here in Africa. And there is this little beast that has been growing out of Nigeria. It's growing in recognition as well, and that is AKO. All right,
They
so I'm
are a
going to tell
rising
you
star.
guys, yeah, I'm going to tell you what AKO has done this year, guys. All right, just give me a second. I want to put the camera on myself because I want to clip this and put it on Instagram. All right, AKO is the African promotion of the year because AKO has been consistent this year. AKO did 5 events for their Pro MMA category. They started with AKO 3 to AKO 7 in December. All right. In AKO this year, one fighter who main evented their card twice made his way to the UFC by winning in Dana White Contender Series, and that is Josiah Musasa. All right, that's one thing that EFC didn't have. EFC didn't have an EFC fighter getting signed in the UFC. However, the EFC
They did
had
have two
um
fighters, right?
they had
In
two fighters
tough,
in
yeah,
the Ultimate Fighter,
in the art,
right? In
yeah,
yeah, Makome, and also Makome
and Brother
was
Rhodes.
also was also fighting on a card that is the Dana White looking for a fight. I believe that's the same fight week as when Dracus won the title in Canada. So, but then coming back to AKO, they started an amateur MMA and boxing league called Hall of Fame. And through Hall of Fame, they did 5 amateur events in the space of last year alone. And in those 5 events, they toured 3 cities. They were in Benin City, they were in Lagos, and they were in Abuja. Right. Also, AKO, in the 5 Pro MMA events they did this year, they toured 2 cities. They did 2 shows in Abuja and 3 shows in Lagos. All 5 shows were in different venues. And I'm gonna tell you the experience as a casual fan. I've been asking around was incredible. It's the closest thing to a global world standard event you would attend in Nigeria. I'm not even talking about concerts. In the space of entertainment, AKO stood in the highest pedestal in Nigeria, producing top-notch events, right? Also, AKO had the biggest televised crowd this year. Attendance for their last show in December was 1,214 spectators. This is bigger than whatever EFC did this year. So AKO is growing in popularity. Their ticket is getting hotter. So when they roll out their tickets, they sell out most of their tickets. So that is also a good thing. And I feel that should be the reason why AKO is the African promotion of the year over EFC. Now, there are some things you would argue for EFC, right? EFC, they did 10 events like this year in the 2024, right? They did 10 events, and they also had one extra event, which was sort of like their contender series. And the contender series they had amateur fights there, right? So 11 events in total. All these events emanated from their PI, which I believe they call WSB Arena right now. Um, in my opinion, a promotion that is not touring is a bit stagnant. And at this point, I would not argue with them in the sense that they are just out to make money. I feel like the 10 events and the 11 events they did in the PI, they were just fulfilling contractual obligations to their broadcasts, the deals they've signed with Supersport, right? And they also focused on sponsors taking money from sponsors, which is a good thing, but I don't think fans care about that. Where they branded their whole arena from it was called the EFC PI and now it's called the WSB arena. I'm gonna say from what I've seen in the arena, from shots, from clips and photos I've seen, it's very, very good. They do all their broadcasts from there, their shows, press conferences. They've got different segments in there where you'd see a little bit of like a Hall of Fame thing going on. They've really brilliant place. But my argument is once a while, get out from there, give other people a chance to be
Experience.
able to
Yeah.
experience your event. Because if you are in South Africa, right? I believe the PI is in Joburg or somewhere close there, and you are living somewhere else, you can't have access to the show unless you travel there. And Chichi here said EFC introduced Contender Series late 2024. It seems they account continuing it in 2025. Yeah, so yeah, they did it in December of last year. So again, they should tour. And one final thing I'm going to point out. If you pull a casual out and say, go to an AKO show, right? If you put them in an AKO show, get them a regular ticket, sit down there, watch the fights, and take them to an EFC show, sit down there, watch a fight. Which would they prefer? They would rather go to the AKO show, in my opinion, because that's where, like, if you go to AKO show as a Nigerian, you would see at least 20 celebrities in there. Not that there are no celebrities in EFC, but I'm saying the packaging they give it, they are trying to put it in levels of like, okay, this is our own UFC in Nigeria, and they are doing a spectacle every minute. So EFC has done this many, many times in the past where they tour big arenas. We've seen them in the Sunbet Arena. So I feel like they should at least have one show out of the PI, maybe pick like a WWE WrestleMania type of deal where there will be one big arena show per year. I think that would make a huge difference. At this point, I feel like they've stagnated. They've stayed the same. The only difference they've had last year compared to last year, was the contender series they've had. Everything else remained the same. That is my opinion about this. I think I've ranted too much, but I'm going to throw it back to the boys here. And if you're in the chat, please feel free to chime in. What do you think about what the arguments I've made for both promotions?
I think it's actually a solid argument, to be honest, right? Like I said previously, the EFC is actually operating at that global level, and it's actually not easy organizing 10 events in a year. So basically, the only difference between them and the UFC is that they're not touring, right? Currently, I hope they have plans to start touring in 2025, and those events are like they're pay-per-view events, right? So they don't have like the equivalent of the pay-per-view and fight nights that the UFC is operating. And remember, it's a different economy in Africa. It's a different landscape. So for the African continent, I think that's still the gold standard. I hope AKO is able to raise up the bar and
Yeah,
uh,
we've got an interesting question from Chinyere. She said, "No doubt AKO had a big year, but was it
yeah,
enough to threaten EFC's position as leader in MMA and combat
no,
sports on African
no,
continent?" I don't think it is. However, the reason why I opt to give AKO this award is because of the growth we've seen. Right? If
Yeah.
EFC is here and in this year they stay here, which they are the gold standard, right? EFC is the gold standard, and AKO was here,
And they
they've
move.
closed the gap. They've
Yeah.
closed the gap a bit. There's a lot of amateur hour going on in AQ, right? I've experienced it. I've seen it, right? And EFC doing this for over a decade, they've got people that have grown into several positions, like from their media team, their broadcast team, their commentary, everybody else. They've got people that have grown in those positions. And at this point, you can call
Have
them
experience.
like professionals in that field. However, in AKO, MMA being relatively new, everybody in their team there is learning on the job, right? If you look at their social media, you see social media game is different. If you look at what they put out on social media, the game is different totally between AKO and EFC. And the deals that that the EFC are signing, if you look at their sponsors, they got so many sponsors, right? From the Mukuru to World Sport Betting, from business point of view and the legacy that it has built, AKO is not even touching it yet. However, in my opinion, right, the EFC should watch out, right? It's sort of like WWE and AEW situation, right? There's a new kid in the block. However, um, they are not in your level yet, but look at the rear view mirror. They are coming. They are coming. But again, there is space for everybody. There's space for everybody. It's not like there would have to be like an ultimate one direction. Like as a young fighter in Africa, the path to UFC, which is the global path where everybody wants to go, AKO has proven to be another option, right?
Yeah.
Um, it's
rightly
also
so.
another, yeah, it's another option because we've seen Musasa move from AKO to the UFC, right? So only good things in my opinion if there are more players in the space. But certainly to answer Chichi's question, AKO is not at the same level as EFC. It's not. EFC are still the leaders, but this year I'm going to put growth over consistency, and EFC has been consistent, but I'll vote for growth here in this situation.
No,
Ebuka, what do you think?
Yeah. Yeah. Very sensible. Very sensible. And I like the analogy you used of yeah, it seems like EFC maybe I like the point you guys say about them not touring, just staying in one place. It's always good to take your product to new areas to really test, how it's going to be received in new cities, new areas, which is why I think the UFC is the biggest thing for us because we know that once they put an event in London, it's going to sell out within minutes. Once they put an event in France or anywhere else in the world, so that's what I think, and that's something that AKO has shown. Even though we know that maybe the arenas are not as big as the ones that EFC uses, and the numbers are not that much, but we've seen them go to different areas and still get good reception. Um, yeah, so it's great. I think I'm very very comfortable with the AKO being the winners of this award from the prestigious African Fighters podcast. And it's great. And congrats to the AKO and everyone involved. And to yourself as well, because obviously you are involved in the AKO. I think we ought
Hey.
to mention that to the viewers so that they understand the point. So yeah,
Well,
congrats to the
if we're
AKO for that.
mentioning that to the viewers, then my credibility is out of the window.
Sounds
No, no, but
biased. Sounds
no,
like
but no,
his independence
but
is
you have
impaired.
to, but you have to make everything in the open. So it's not like we're being shooed. It's always good. It wasn't only your decision. This is a 2-1 here, so majority decision still. I think
Yeah.
I
in
actually
this
want to mention
situation.
something. I want to mention something. So, in marketing and management, there's a theory called the BCG model, right? That's the Boston Consulting Group model, and
Consulting group.
you classify products or what do you call it, organizations based on market growth and relative market share. So, if you have low market growth, right, but high market share, you are a cash cow. So the EFC is a cash cow of the MMA market in Africa. But if you
Mm,
have a high market growth, right, and a relative high market share, you are a star. And that is why I said AKO is actually a rising star, right? If you have low market growth and you probably have low market share, you're a dog. And of course, if you have a high market growth, but you have a low market share, it's called a question mark
yeah,
product. So I
mm,
just had to, chip that in. So Jibril basically was unknowingly using the Boston Consulting Group matrix to evaluate
yeah.
the MMA market in Africa. So
The Boston what?
that what goes to the
The Boston
Consulting
Boston
Group,
what?
Consulting Group.
Boston Consulting Group, Boston,
Okay.
Massachusetts. Yeah,
Damn.
BCG.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's good to know that I'm casually just dropping dimes without even know I'm doing that. Thank you very much. Big shout out Chichi. Thank you. We've got Mohammed Suleiman in here. Say congrats to the winners, but AKO deserves it. Of course, Mohammed, you are a Nigerian, so you would say you say AKO deserve it. I just hope any South African that sees this segment takes this as it is. There's no hate here. uh EFC um EFC has won this award 3 times in a row, and AKO is making a big leap. So big shout out to AKO, in my opinion, African promotion of the year. All right, fellas, moving on.
Yeah, let's move.
Um, the next award is Inspirational Fighter of the Year, and for this award, we've got three inspirational fighters, right? There is there's a thing about these three guys. This category, in my opinion, because I'm someone that likes entertainment and cinema,